So in this lesson, we're going to focus on the types of modern call. It's not particularly modern. It's pretty traditional. It's a dream or a vision. You can be called to a shamanic vocation in a dream or a vision. The dream is often one of those big dreams, or one of those particularly vivid dreams, or one of those very uncanny dreams where you wake up in a puddle of sweat, or a dream that actually changes your life. And this can be like a shaman visits you in a dream, or a demon eats you in a dream, or a demon abducts you, or an ancestor says, the souls need your help. There's some sort of message that comes in a dream, and it can also come in a vision. Okay, and this can be a series of visions and a series of dreams with a theme of being called. And if you don't get it the first time and you're refusing the call, then the dreams may continue to hammer at your door. So this is a timeless way of being called in a dream or a vision. The next type of modern call is more modern. It is pretty unique to the 20th and 21st century, and that is the collapse of one's religious faith. The doctrines that are not based on direct experience are quickly becoming outdated, as individuals going through crisis are finding that they need some sort of individual personal experience of the mystery in order to satisfy their soul. And the souls that are being called now to a shamanic vocation, that call really disrupts one's peaceful relationship with a prevailing monotheistic religious structure, church structure, where there's a mediator between God and the individual in the form of a priest. We all need to become our own priests in a way. Now, that's not to say we don't need priests, we don't need mediators, and we don't need elders and real shamans to mediate. We still need mediators, but these mediators need to help us to unpack our Gnostic experience and to help us discern our Gnostic experiences and how to be safely guided by our Gnostic experiences. They do not stand as a replacement for our own direct experience of God, our own direct experience of the mystery, our own direct experience of the astral realm, the spiritual world, the beginning stages of the spiritual world. We need to have these for ourselves. So when one is called to come to know the spiritual world, the religious faith usually cannot accommodate it. And so the call can trigger a breakdown of one's sort of religious framework, or one can have a breakdown of one's religious framework because there's this deep yearning for direct experience that's not being met, deep yearning for more of a mystical spirituality that's not being met. And so one apostates, one falls away. Or one can get embittered. Maybe a priest is disillusioned somebody. Maybe somebody suffers under the authority of a priest or something and falls away. Or for whatever reason, like what happened to me, I just couldn't, my faith in my Catholicism fell apart when I couldn't hold my own in arguments against atheists. And one time I had a particularly shattering debate against a vehement atheist, and I couldn't hold my own. And I was shattered by that. And that actually triggered a collapse in my religious faith. And shortly after that, I didn't come to shamanism right away after that. I actually came to romantic love. After that, immediately after my religious faith collapsed, I met my first soulmate and was initiated into my sexuality. So I didn't go right into the shamanic call, but you could say the initiated into one's sexuality is kind of a form, potentially, of a shamanic call. Anyway, so hearing the call can trigger a collapse of the religious faith, or your religious faith can collapse, and then you're left in a state of crisis. And the reason you're left in a state of crisis is because the religious faith is actually holding your framework of being related to the spiritual world, but it's kind of holding it in a rigid holding pattern. And when that breaks down, you have to build your own patterns of relatedness. You have to now build your own framework. And so when the provided framework collapses, you're sort of forced into this crisis where you have to learn your own based on your own experiences. So the collapse in religious faith is related to the spiritual, emotional, existential, and vocational crisis. Usually they go hand in hand. If you have a collapse in religious faith, that's tantamount to a spiritual crisis. However, you can have a spiritual crisis without ever having a religious faith. You can be raised an atheist and have a spiritual crisis. Like, whoa, is there really no God? How do I discover God? I want to know God. I don't know God, and I need to. I feel called to know about the mystery, to know about the Creator, to know about humanity's spiritual nature. And that's a spiritual crisis that is not related to the collapse of religious faith. If you are not indoctrinated into a religion, then it's about finding one from scratch, well, atheism is a religious faith, actually. So collapse of your atheistic beliefs would constitute a collapse in religious faith, but atheists probably wouldn't accept that. But really, you can have an emotional or existential or philosophical crisis. Like, what is the purpose of my life? What's the purpose of my life? I think that this, how do I contribute to humanity? What is my role in humanity? This dovetails with a vocational crisis. What is my work in the world? How do I serve the world? How do I make a living doing something that is authentic to my soul? This is, I think, the most common, and this dovetails very kind of with the voluntary seeking, but although having a crisis like this is not voluntary, it's something that happens in your soul. You are not fulfilled, and so your higher self triggers a crisis in order to bring about a process of becoming fulfilled. This is what I experienced. This was how I first experienced the call. It was through a spiritual existential crisis. What's the purpose of my life? So this is being activated more and more powerfully today with the systems of North American culture and of kind of globalized capitalistic culture in place, where education is like funneling us into a materialistic jobs and materialistic frameworks, right? And so our soul is rebelling against this, and our soul rebels against these funnels by creating a crisis, creating a depression, creating a malaise, creating a lack of motivation, creating self-sabotage. Blessed is the one who is meant to be a shamanic individual who completely self-destructs while they're halfway through law school and has to deal with a big student debt, but who actually ejected themselves from the school because it was killing their soul. You're lucky if you get a kind of depression that frees you from a false path. And this is where too much ego willpower can hijack the process. If you have too much ego willpower and you power through it, you can actually dominate the signs of your soul to a certain extent and not listen to your soul well enough and continue to crush it. Anyway, most of the people that are drawn to this course, that are drawn to this material, don't have that problem. Quite the opposite. The soul is usually stronger than the ego, and that is an issue that needs to be sorted out over the duration of your shamanic training. Your ego needs to gain strength, so you're not just at the whims of your astral body all the time. But this kind of crisis, vocational crisis, is increasingly widespread and for very good reason. People are waking up out of the trance of materialism, and they're looking for ways of funneling their labor in the world and their purpose in the world into a positive framework that is a spiritually friendly framework. So another call, and this is a particular type of call, and I certainly experienced this myself as well. You can actually be called by an entheogenic teacher spirit, by the cosmic wisdom embodied in the entheogen itself, can actually call you. I was called by mushrooms at first. I had a spontaneous sort of waking vision where I very clearly and consciously experienced the mushroom intelligence saying, "Come over here, I have things to teach you." Other people experience that with ayahuasca. I mean, I experienced that, I continued to be called by other entheogenic teacher spirits later on. But the sacred mushroom was a big one for me. And this is common. This is increasingly common. LSD is a tricky one because it's unclear. Like, I think it does have a unique spirit behind it. It's a slightly more luciferic spirit than the mushroom and then ayahuasca, but it's still a cosmic wisdom teacher. It still should be considered a divine intelligence. And some people don't trust it because it's man-made, but it's still a teaching spirit, a divine being. It should be considered a divine being or semi-divine being. Not necessarily to be fully trusted because it's more of a luciferic signature. But this entheogenic call is increasingly common, and especially with ayahuasca. And people feel called actually by the teacher of the ayahuasca teacher itself. And if you answer that call, that is definitely you're signing up for a shamanic journey, because it really, as I've said before, and we'll continue to flesh out the spiritual science and of how entheogens work. They activate your astral body. They make your astral body more conscious. They move your ego consciousness into the astral realm. And they instigate the awakening of your astral body and even higher realms of consciousness than the astral, like the realms above the astral realm, which we'll get into later, which entheogens can open. So this is a kind of a specialized call, which very much needs elders and guidance because it's dangerous. It's very dangerous, relatively speaking, and it's a warrior path. You cannot embark on the entheogenic path without coming into conflict, because it's a kind of hot spot where humans are very easily snagged by delusions, deceptions, and so you need to create a very safe funnel for yourself if you're going to answer this call. So you need to really do your research and really prepare for how to be a student of an entheogenic teacher, how to be a good student.
So which of these had you nodding your head? Yeah, that happened to me, totally. And that happened to me too. And that also happened to me. Oh my God, like all of these things practically happened to me. How many of these do you relate to? Please share in the comments below. And also, I invite you, if you really related to this and you're continuing to relate to this, I invite you to check out the online community that I've created that is made up entirely of people that shake their head to these symptoms and signs and triggers and dangers and that really relate to this material. Imagine an online community entirely comprised of souls who are undergoing a modern shamanic crisis, a modern shamanic awakening, a community of modern shamanic candidates. If you're curious to learn more, check out the information page. The link is in the comments below. And you might have noticed I look a little different here than in the videos. That's because these videos were shot back in 2017. It's now 2023, 6 years on, and I've been through a whole lot since then. So enjoy the rest of this series about the signs and symptoms of the modern shamanic call and the modern shamanic awakening.